trust in your heart and your soul.
This movie exists.
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time cliche. Also, why does any of this bullshit really need narration at this point? Movie makes out Cinderella to see all sorts of magic and all things, but we'll totally forget about this for the rest of the movie.
With Mr. Goose and all their animal family.
Why is Mr. Goose the one animal that gets a shout out in the narration? What about Mr. Goat back here? Or the multiple Mr. and Mrs. Chickens? Or the other geese in the shot? What's so goddamn special about Mr. Goose, eh? I see the remake is live action, but they retain the cartoon mice.
I believe that animals listen and speak to us if we only have the ear for it.
Raising your children to believe animals can speak to you.
Who looks after us?
Fairy godmothers, of course.
No doubt Cinderella will grow up to be a future politician.
I believe in everything.
Even the flying spaghetti monster? Opening of the movie is an orgy of evidence that this family is happy, and it's going to be sad when it's not.
They knew themselves to be the most happy of families to live as they did.
And then the narration spells out the happiness after you just saw the happiness, which leads us to angriness. This little princess girl from olden times is going to bed with a ton of obvious makeup still on her face.
But sorrow can come to any kingdom, no matter how happy.
How happy are they? Once again, Cinderella's mom just plain dies, probably because of all the happiness.
Have courage and be kind.
But above all, be blonde and pretty. Cinderella's played by someone named Lily James. It was like Hollywood pounded their fists on the table and said, bring me the next pretty face, but someone with Harry Potter's parents' names mashed together.
You'll recall that some time ago in my travels I made the acquaintance of Sir Francis Tremaine.
Well, I also got acquainted with his wife, if you know what I mean.
Do you think I may be allowed one last chance?
This genuine seeming scene suggests the father is truly in love again, but then the rest of the movie will only show us evil stepmother, with no trace of any reason why daddy might have originally fallen for her. Animal cruelty with matching cat leash. Also, what kind of sex power do you have when you make a dude forget how awful you and your 2 daughters are and make him want to marry you? Movie tries to show us how evil this stepmother is by showing the house full of drinking and gambling. I guess this form of happiness isn't cool, because it doesn't involve butterflies and rainbows. Oh yeah, this still qualifies as an infestation. Mice carry disease no matter how cute they are. Glad to see the live-action adaptation kept all the crucial elements of the original animated film's plot.
We ladies must help one another.
And then someone had to work at a computer for 6 months making sure we got this mouse's reaction.
And that's what I really want, for you to come back, no matter what.
Man, she's foreshadowing so hard, I kinda wonder if her dad might have lived if she'd have just kept her pie hole shut right here. Stepmother comes out just in time to overhear Ella's father talk about how awesome Ella's mom was, and how trying the new family is.
I miss her. Do you?
No, that's why I married someone. I mean, totally, yeah, I do.
Anastasia and Drizella have always shared a room.
But why? Haven't you always been rich? What purpose did that serve, other than to make them a double-barrel shotgun of awful?
I can stay in
The attic!
Look, the directive was to have courage and be kind. Now, you're not being not kind by objecting to this. Kind does not mean be a doormat. Why build a house this way? Hey guys, got a great idea. Let's build a 6-story tower that serves no purpose and then put an attic at the top.
Who is she talking to?
She's mad.
How did you even hear her talking? Isn't she like several miles upstairs? I heard you, subtle song reference to the original film that is wholly unnecessary and unmoving.
Mornings did not agree with Ella's stepsisters.
Maybe that's because they sleep in a color explosion Ant-word fever dream of a bedroom.
In fact, they lacked accomplishment in any art.
You know what would have been more interesting? If these sisters did have talent. I think I would have hated them even more. It's almost like throughout the centuries, the new retellings of this story didn't trust the audience to hate people who are clearly terrible. Why did you even remake this movie? You're doing almost everything the same as the animated film. I hate this fucking cat! Also, cat attack of CGI mice shows why you can do these things in an animated movie, but in a live-action movie, it looks stupid, especially when you have to edit in such a way that only implies the real cat cartoon bumped his head into the furniture.
He's passed on, miss. He's gone.
Her stepmother and stepsisters ever misused her.
Almost 21 minutes of fluffy, unneeded backstory before this live-action remake finally catches up to the original cartoon story's starting point.
But what about my lace?
My parasol.
We're ruined.
You know, give the movie a little time and I might be able to figure out how I feel about these characters. How can 6 bells calling for service be ringing in a household with only 3 human beings besides Ella? Are you telling me the mice and cat are ringing these other bells?
Cinderella.
And here's the most annoying roll credits in history.
Wouldn't you prefer to eat when all the work is done, Ella? Or should I say Cinderella?
I think the portrayal of the stepmother and the stepsisters is made even worse by the fact that just 3 months previous to this, Into the Woods rehashed all this too. Each new adaptation tries to find ways to make them more horrible than the last one. Next Cinderella adaptation, stepmother and stepsisters send the mice to the gallows and then make Cinderella eat them. Cinderella is so distraught about her slave-like conditions her stepfamily keeps her under, she just has to go for a horsey ride in the countryside to clear her head. I mean, could you give your downtrodden character any more first-world outlets? How is this ride even happening? Cinderella runs into Snape's Patronus while riding on horseback. Movie decides to cast Game of Thrones Richard Madden against type as a prince who falls in love with the wrong woman. Something tells me this won't end in a red wedding, but I'd knock off 100 sins if it did. Horse circling conversation.
Miss,
What do they call you?
Who cares what they call you? How about what's your name, so that she doesn't have a stupid excuse not to tell you?
You shouldn't be this deep in the forest alone.
That's something only a pervert would say. Wait, is that a euphemism? I see all the prince's men decided to forget about him long enough so that he and Ella could have this conversation.
I hope to see you again, miss.
And are you?
Given the time period, they basically just had sex. Discount Naboo. Hey, I know, let's have a scene where the people are walking and talking, but are generally blocked by people in the foreground. That's not frustrating to the audience at all.
Why do you stay there when they treat you so?
You mean she can leave anytime she wants? And the only reason she stays to take the abuse is because of the homestead, which surely belongs to her evil stepmother at this point anyway, legally speaking.
The prince shall choose a bride.
Also, if you were riding around the countryside yesterday and you wore a blue dress and you talked me out of killing a deer, be sure to show up. In fact, just come to the palace now. It'll save me lots of time and grief. Oh my god, I just realized she's a blonde Demi Lovato. Captain wins his match against Kit, and somehow that's a cue for all the other people who are in their own individual matches to stop as well.
The day of the ball arrived, and the entire kingdom held its breath in anticipation.
Maybe this is on purpose, but this narration and accompanying visuals feels like they could be literally from any fairy tale ever. Also, this is where, despite my hatred for the Hobbit movies, I'm just dying to see Smaug show up and kill everything right now. This lookalike Alice blonde lead actress and all this excessive color have me constantly checking IMDb to make sure Tim Burton did not direct this shit. When mice help in a cartoon, it's award-winning Ratatouille type shit. When they help in a live-action movie, you jump the shark before even getting in the water, dog. Stepsisters dressed for the ball like 1995 prom hookers.
I dare say no one in the kingdom will outshine my daughters.
Well, there are enough sparkly and reflective surfaces on this dress to make that statement my lock of the week. Every time I see this, I wonder why Cinderella bothers. What's the history of the stepmother that has led her to believe she's going to get to go to the ball just because she was economical in making a dress? She should have just packed this thing in a bag, rode a horse to the palace, and changed somewhere out in the woods or in an outhouse or something. Luckily, though, a fairy godmother decides to finally give Cinderella some hope after long months of abuse.
Just a little crust of bread or better, a cup of milk?
Cinderella does not wonder why or how a sudden woman managed to show up on the property without anyone seeing her. Also, sudden old woman asks for bread or milk, and of course Cinderella says yes because she's kind-hearted. My problem is that she only has to walk 5 feet to find a table with mass consumption milk on it. I thought this household was struggling to keep up appearances and Who leaves milk in a pitcher on the back patio after dinner and long after leave for the ball time? Is this the most convenient milk in the history of film milk?
That's better. Now, where was I?
Casting Helena Bonham Carter does nothing to remove the Tim Burton overtones this film unintentionally has.
Oh, that trough. Doesn't really say coach.
Some sort of strange magic code prevents the fairy godmother from turning anything she wants into a coach, but we're supposed to believe that a pumpkin can be turned into one, so I don't see why there's a problem. Disney, in their all-knowing wisdom, realized a cutaway establishing shot close-up on a couple random lizards would thoroughly add to your enjoyment of the film, and so it was done.
This'll be a first for me.
You mean existing?
Let's do it here.
Do what here?
Sure, okay, but how are we gonna get it out of the green? Well, like I f***ing care. Carry on, assholes. Or... Now, stay with me. You and Cinderella both can lift the heavy pumpkin outside and do it outside. You know, the outside? Yep, turns out it was a fantastic idea to create this pumpkin carriage inside a closed structure. Movie hilarity ensued.
You really are my fairy godmother.
Of course.
I've just been silently watching you suffer as a slave the last couple of years because reasons. Sure, lizards can become footmen, but no other object other than round fruit or vegetables can become a coach. Literally 35 seconds of dress magic.
It's beautiful. She'd love it.
Can you bring her back to life too? We can dig out the body.
Now come on, off you go. Quick, you'll be late.
For a very important date? Oh god, worlds are colliding here and I'm losing. Are we sure Tim Burton had nothing to do with this? Like, absolutely sure.
They're made of glass.
I agree. Isn't that dangerous as hell?
And you find that really comfortable.
Because it's that cushiony kind of glass.
The magic will only last so long.
And for some reason, I can't help you out when midnight rolls around. Charging a fairy godmother during medieval times requires so many goat sacrifices.
Midnight.
That's more than enough time.
Said the ancestor of Marty McFly. I'm sure Cinderella is having the time of her life in this coach made from a pumpkin, a coachman made from a goose, and 2 footmen made of mice. But couldn't she also have provided a violinist made from a chicken so that she'd have some entertainment on the way there?
A princess. It's a princess or nothing.
How many princesses are there in these here parts anyway, huh? If they're in such abundant supply, why have we only seen one prince? And why are all the princesses in the galaxy coming to this Marry the Prince ball? Cinderella manages to enter the palace and no one directs her anywhere, so she somehow walks onto a balcony to make a grand entrance so everyone can see her. And the Film School 101 teacher said, you know how to make blue pop on screen? Keep the rest of the shot as free of blue as possible. Nudge, wink, remember to thank me when you win the Oscar. Despite the fact that no one knows what's really going on, Cinderella's arrival is apparently so amazing that everyone stops doing whatever they were doing and instinctively know to make way for her as she walks to the floor.
It's you, isn't it?
Well, if you aren't sure, maybe the fairy godmother's magic is a little too good. Skip!
Who's that, Mama?
She's disguised worse than Clark Kent. Come the f*** on. You gotta love a culture where even nervous lovers talk openly of their emotions in front of expressionless human guard statues. This is where gossip is born, people.
No one's ever painted my portrait.
No? They should.
Ah, whatever year this is, when this kind of line worked.
I've already promised him in marriage to the Princess Selina.
We have no idea who actually has the power to marry the prince in this movie. We see Stellan Skarsgård being all Stellan Skarsgård-y, but how can he make the prince marry someone else? We've been told the prince can marry whomever he wants, but we've been told nothing concrete. So what are the rules?
You should.
I shouldn't.
You should.
Skip! I agree these two like each other and should be granted time to explore that, but I'm not down with falling in true love in one goddamn evening, and that's just what this movie is trying to pull.
There.
Did they just get laid? Is this a Freudian slipper?
Won't you tell me who you really are?
If I do, I think everything might be different.
You want to see this guy again, right? You know that eventually you have to tell him you're a poor servant girl, right? I don't understand what she expects to happen by never telling him anything. Maybe we can get married without him ever knowing my name or who I am.
My name is...
Somehow, the one dance they had and the short walk through the palace to the secret garden took 5 hours. Also, clock block. Also, 30 minutes from the start of the closing credits, and this movie finally decides to toss in the central conflict. Wait, what the f***? She's running back inside before running back outside? Again, what the f***? God, f*** you, movie. This frog was turned into a human for now. Even if he craves flies, his tongue is still human right now, you f***ers. Also, leftover special effects budget was spent on this bullshit. Now for the most plot-convenient wardrobe malfunction of all fiction. I mean, if she's this bad in heels, this should have fallen off ages ago. Both of them. Glass slipper bounces on stone and doesn't break. Somehow, the entire King's Guard is alerted, mounted, and on the chase before this carriage has even gone 100 yards. I mean, this is going to be the shortest search for the glass slipper owner ever, right? The way back home is suddenly treacherous, as if the continental drift of Pangea occurred during the time she was at the ball. Also, why doesn't she just bail? Obviously, all this magic is gonna run out before you get clean away from the prince, so embarrassment or getting dirty, what's worse? You know there are no seatbelts in this thing, right? Why hasn't she plunged to her death yet? All these animals are changing back, and at this point I have to ask, can she survive if this entire carriage goes back to normal at top speed? Because I don't think she can. Everything changes back one at a time, and definitely not in the order everything was created. Also, it was 11:59 when she started running out of the palace, and somehow she made it all the way here before 12:01. Oh, look at that! She can survive if this thing reverts to normal at full speed. Will wonders never cease?
You'll find it's very comfortable.
But for some reason, this and the other slipper didn't turn back into blue slippers, even though it was created by that same magic with a midnight deadline.
The mystery princess.
There are a lot of unbelievable things I can accept in Cinderella, but these people not recognizing her at the ball is definitely one I cannot.
The prince is not free to marry for love. He's promised to the Princess Selina of Zaragoza.
Yeah, but is that really a rule? And even if it is, it comes way too late for me to give a shit. Mice really enjoy living and breathing Cinderella's foot sweat.
Father.
Just what the story of Cinderella needed, the dying prince's father drama.
You must not marry for advantage. You must marry for love.
Overbearing King Dad turns out to have pretty okay opinions after all, on his deathbed. Also, thanks Dad for telling me this earlier in the evening when I was literally within arm reach of the girl I love.
Hereby declares his love for the mysterious princess.
New king issues embarrassing proclamation about his own lack of ability to ID the girl he somehow undyingly loved.
As wore glass slippers to the ball.
He only cares about the size of your feet, not what you obviously look like.
Are you looking for this?
Cinderella's stepmother just happened to find her secret stash up in the attic, because that's what lazy assholes do. Walk up 80 flights of stairs to check for secret panels, hoping to find evidence that the girl they couldn't even recognize at the ball was in fact their dirty servant of a stepdaughter. Also, damn it, Cate Blanchett, how does Disney keep talking A-listers into appearing in these carbon copy soulless live-action remakes?
I shall tell you a story. Once upon a time...
Did they even have Once Upon a Time during the age of Once Upon a Time? Both the evil stepmother and Cinderella forget that the prince himself has the other slipper to match this one, so destroying this one slipper does nothing to prevent his search to find the girl who fits the one he has. Dumbasses.
Why? Why? Because you are young and innocent and good, and I...
Cut myself off in the middle of explode. Look at the time. This long line of women waiting to put on a slipper proves that everyone's feet here are standard US units, while Cinderella's feet are metric. I mean, what a colossal waste of time this is. The prince couldn't just get the artist we saw earlier, draw Cinderella from memory, and at least cancel out all the non-blondes. Oh, yeah. To put the slipper on this woman would be ridiculous.
There's one more house. We must leave no stone unturned.
Movie would have me believe Cinderella's house was the very last house this army of slipper checkers bothered to slipper check.
Try again.
Ladies and gentlemen, comedy.
Though Ella was sad, her spirit was not broken. She knew that the ball and her time with the prince would become beautiful, distant memories.
Sickening, isn't it?
If you love me.
Cinderella sings in what many parts of the world is called the Ex Machina song.
Your Majesty, I did
Captain, would you be so kind as to investigate?
It would be my pleasure, Your Majesty.
I would probably reduce all the sins if they went through all this trouble and the slipper somehow didn't fit Cinderella. Then the prince, even seeing her face and everything, turned away and said, "Well, I guess the search must go on, gents. Let's get on a ship to Bravos and find this lady forthwith."
You have never been, and you never will be my mother.
Hey now, the whole reason why Cinderella even got to this point is because she continued to be courageous and kind like her mother taught her. Now she's being mean. Deservedly so, should have happened long ago. But she should pay for her words if the movie's theme is going to mean anything at all. Cinderella doesn't lock the door behind her as she leaves.
Have courage and be kind.
You know, except for when you need to give a crowd-pleasing rebuke to your stepmother 1 minute ago. Oh, there you are. Don't even need to ask any questions. Off we go.
I am Cinderella.
What? She just accepts that insulting nickname her evil stepsisters gave her and presents it as her real name? The prince may have found his perfect fit, but it will be ruined after they have a kid. Yep, she's the last person he tried, which means she literally is the only person in this entire huge-ass kingdom with this shoe size, which is beyond not believable.
I forgive you.
You. Easy to do that once the new king is taking you on to marry him, isn't it?
They would have loved each other.
Wait, who painted Cinderella's mom and dad? That had to be from Cinderella's memory, right? She didn't have existing paintings of her parents, did she? No, she did not. So let me get this straight. They met twice, had a nice dance, and then met again after he'd tried the loose shoe on every woman in the kingdom, found it fit this peasant girl, and voila! The very definition of true love.
Lord, you would have a queen, not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn, treacherous as the sea!
Okay, I will if you marry me. It's called a compromise.
It's just called coercion. That's not fair.
She chopping broccoli, chopping broccoli, chopping broccoli.
Tale as old as time, true as it can be.
You must suspect me to attack with Capafera. Naturally, but I find that Tybalt cancels out Capafera. Don't you?
Keep singing!
Now I got cut loose, kicked off Sunday shoes.
No one's ever painted my portrait.
No? They should.
I mean, your boobs are huge. I mean, I want to squeeze them.
You are 16, going on 17, baby, it's time to think.
I've been It's the East.
And Juliet is the sun.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
Who are you?
They call me Mr. Tibbs.